Playing games together is great. That's why we're always on the lookout for a great co-op. Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on gameranx, the top 10 new co-op games of 2020. Starting off at number 10, it's Hellpoint. Hellpoint is somewhere between like a grotesque fantasy and a sci-fi RPG, which takes place on a space station, and basically, if you want to call it Space Souls or Dark Space, it probably wouldn't be entirely inaccurate. It's very much a Souls-like. The co-op didn't exactly launch perfectly, it was fairly buggy, but by this point, this is a very good co-op Souls-like. And if anything, it's certainly one that actually has its own aesthetic. The best Souls-likes I've found are the ones that just don't try to look like Dark Souls. They try to take the genre into a new world or a completely new aesthetic and integrate ideas from that into the gameplay. At number 9 is Minecraft Dungeons, which I know, yes, sounds like another Minecraft title, and technically is, but it's a dungeon crawler. It's a very different concept than what Minecraft actually is. And as a co-op dungeon crawler slash dungeon brawler, it's a pretty damn good hack and slash exploration of procedurally generated dungeons with some handcrafted ones thrown in as well. It's pretty darn fun. It's maybe a little bit simplistic for single player, but when you get a couple of people together and do this thing co-op, it is a ton of fun. In fact, I'd pretty much list that as the strength. I care probably a lot less about Minecraft Dungeons as a single player game and really enjoy it as a co-op. I don't exactly know how intended that is, but the co-op was absolutely the sort of saving grace for this title. It extends the playability because it's kind of a conversational platform in addition to a hack and slash, and the randomly generated nature of it lets you basically go as long as you want. At number 8 is Battletoads. Oh my god, do I want Battletoads. I cannot wait for Battletoads. What I'm pretty glad about is that they decided not to alter the core gameplay conceits. It's still a side-scrolling beat-em-up, a 3-player, go to the right, beat everything up game. But it definitely upgrades the aesthetic a lot. We've seen some of it. And while it is kind of unfortunate it's an Xbox slash PC exclusive, I am extremely ready to play it. Everything we have seen of it, which again, like I said, it's fairly limited, but what we've looked at seems like a fairly big style version of Battletoads. Like the octane seems quite high, so to speak. I love Battletoads. I go back and play the original NES game all the time, and to be able to play something without using an emulator or hooking up an old console, yes, I do own an NES and a copy of Battletoads. No, my current TV does not like it. I'm excited. I think that it's going to be really good. It's coming August 20th. At number 7 is SpongeBob SquarePants, The Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated, which is a platform game I don't know I really expected to ever exist. Battle for Bikini Bottom is actually a really good co-op platformer, but it looks extremely dated when you see it. Purple Lamp Studios has gone ahead and completely redone it. It's much better looking, however, it definitely retains the aesthetic of the original, but it also gives us new content. Stuff that was cut from the original game, like the Robo Squidward boss fight, plenty more as well. It's also got a new Horde mode, multiplayer, for online and offline 2-player co-op, which has proven to be a pretty good addition because the gameplay of SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom is actually really good. It's a great platformer. It definitely is along the lines of platformers in that era. However, it is one of the better examples of it. SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom is out already on quite a few platforms. And if you're looking for a great platformer from the 2003 era, but without the really, really dated look, I mean, this looks a lot better. This is where you gotta go. At number 6 is Watch Dogs Legion, which is a sequel to the definite upgrade in the series, Watch Dogs 2. It not only gives you the ability to control multiple characters, it also has a 4-player co-op mode that I think is really going to end up being a big boon to the series. Watch Dogs kind of started out a little bit too close to Grand Theft Auto, but has gradually grown apart from it, as was kind of the spirit of the series intended to be. It's not that the first one was bad, it was just a little too samey. But the second one I think was genuinely quite good. It really expanded upon the core ideas of the series and implemented them in a manner that was great. Here we're seeing this in a sort of near near future London police state, which I think is a brilliant setting for this game. We've sort of seen it in a pre-police state era. In some ways, the CTOS idea was kind of shown through a Silicon Valley utopian lens, which was, I mean, criticized in the game, more or less. But the end result of that type of a thing is, yes, obviously police state stuff. So I really like that that's what's being portrayed here. And I really think it has more potential as a setting. And I think this is where the series is really going to hit its stride. It's hitting pretty much every platform imaginable on October 29th, except for next gen, which it will also be hitting later, obviously. At number 5 is Baldurs Gate 3. Now, this is a sequel that's been a very long time coming, and it was originally going to be hitting mid-August, but they are going to be announcing the actual release date in a few days. It isn't going to be long from now, according to them. Baldurs Gate, if you remember, is a top-down isometric role-playing game. From the looks of everything we've seen so far, the gameplay conventions aren't particularly different. However, the viewpoint is now entirely 3D. You're able to do basically everything that you might in a modern game with the camera. Still point and click, still very cool looking. It's pretty exciting that Larian Studios, the developers of Divinity Original Sin and Divinity Original Sin 2, have been the developers of this game because they're bringing their co-op conventions to it. You'll be able to play both locally and with friends. Specifically, if you want to do couch co-op, that's split screen for 2 players. If you want to do it online, it's 4 players. At number 4 is Outriders, a fairly different looking game from SquarePants, which we thought might be related to Marvel. However, it's a game that centers around humanity's struggle to colonize a planet and a superpower giving energy that empowers both sides of a war. We've seen a lot of the systems that Outriders purports to use. It's very role-playing oriented, but for the most part, it's a 3-player cover shooter that I think will come off a lot like a Gears of War title. And that makes sense. It was developed by People Can Fly, the developer behind Gears of War Judgment, which was one of the spin-off games. They also created Bulletstorm, which was a pretty darn cool first-person shooter. I don't know, I think that this is going to be one of those games that is either really, really good or kind of just sort of quietly lands and people forget about it. I think there's potential for the former, and I hope that the latter doesn't happen because I think the premise is cool, the aesthetic is cool, the systems that they've shown us are also cool, and if it all comes together, I'm pretty excited to have another multiplayer cover shooter to go through. Personally, it's coming to pretty much all platforms in Q4 of this year. Cross your fingers. At number 3 is Star Wars Squadrons, which I think is an extremely cool looking game, a first-person, multiplayer, dogfighting game intended to give you the ability to play in VR. However, the game is not going to be VR exclusive, which honestly I think is a good thing because that means it's not going to rely on those gimmicks. But what worries me is that that might make the VR itself a bit of a gimmick. We'll see, but I'm pretty darn excited about it on account it's obviously using a name similar to Rogue Squadron. I think it's probably going to be comparable to Rogue Squadron in the same way the new Battlefront is comparable to the old Battlefront. I do think there's going to be some pretty significant gameplay differences. We've seen some stuff about the various ships. The Imperial ones, for instance, aren't going to have shields, so it's going to be quite accurate to the in-world ships. I'm interested to see how much Rogue Squadron and how much X-Wing versus TIE Fighter and how much new gameplay is in the mix here. It's coming to PS4, Xbox One, and Windows on October 2nd. At number 2 is Marvel's Avengers. Although there is some controversy going on about monetization options, particularly in the exclusivity areas, the core game actually does look pretty darn fun. It looks to have some varied combat based on different character gameplay, and I definitely like what everything looks like. It's a good-looking game. What it really depends on, I think, is the story and how they intend to make it into what they've been calling a games as a service type game, how the ongoing gameplay is going to fare in that respect. But I think there's also a lot of possibilities. As long as they don't bog us down too far with the monetization stuff, we'll see. Marvel's Avengers is hitting this current generation of hardware on September 4th. And at number 1 is Grounded. It's worth talking about because it's a pretty fun looking game. It's basically a Honey, I Shrunk the Kids simulator. You're shrunk down to the size of an ant and have to, either on your own or with a cast of others, people who are playing with you, co-op, survive in a world that seems much bigger than it is. That means gathering resources, getting a hold of stuff that can help you fight off insects that are much bigger than they should be, etc., etc. It looks like a hell of a lot of fun to me. Few bonus games for you. First one is Gunfire Reborn, a kind of first-person roguelike RPG linear co-op game. It's actually a really cool aesthetic. It does a lot differently from the type of game you might expect. It's kind of Left 4 Dead-ish, except for obviously the aesthetic's totally different. It's also very loot-oriented, but hey, that's not necessarily a bad thing when it's done right. Next is Godfall, an action RPG that I've been calling kind of fantasy melee Anthem, although we definitely have hope that it's handled more competently than Anthem. That's all for today. If you played any of these games and or are looking forward to any of them, leave us a comment, let us know what you think. If you like this video, click like. If you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week. The best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription. So click subscribe, enable all notifications. And as always, we thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter, Falcon the Hero. We'll see you next time right here on GameRanx.